This new infrared video just released by documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell showing what he says was an incident on the USS Jackson.
Everybody wants to hear from somebody that was there, but it's hard, man. It's hard to get people that were there to talk, especially if they're current, even though they're not talking for the Navy and they're talking for themselves. But I bet we're feeling lucky today, right?
I've been on the west coast of San Diego since 2002 is when I joined the Navy. To my surprise, which is something I've never witnessed, was a light I noticed on the horizon, but it looked as if it were surfacing out of the water and going up. They all executed at the same time, leaving. It's not like three of them left and then one was kind of like a little behind them. No, they were all in sync at the same time.
This is really, really important. I want to emphasize this. In the video, we see two objects, and over the course of the 35 seconds of that video, those two objects stay identically separated. They're separated by about a half an angle, 0.6 degrees, and that means they're moving in formation across the sky, and that is absolutely critical to ruling out planes, right? Because over 35 seconds, two planes would be going in vastly different directions. And yet here we have not only corroboration of the eyewitness accounts, but also ruling out distant aircraft, commercial aircraft.
This is Weaponized. I'm George Knapp, coming to you from Las Vegas, joined by my friend and colleague Jeremy Corbell, who is hiding out somewhere. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good, George. It's been a good day. How are you?
It's been a good week. I mean, we were able to share with the world this video of an incident from February 2023 involving a U.S. warship, the USS Jackson, and a lot of discussion since the video came out, people trying to poke holes in it. We fortunately had some conversations and audio clips from one of the key witnesses on board the ship. But people are trying to wonder who was this guy who shared his thoughts with us, and maybe we need to tell him.
Yeah, I think that would be exceptional. If we could get somebody who was actually there, who was firsthand witness to this event series that we were able to obtain footage and put it out of, that would be exceptional. Everybody wants to hear from somebody that was there. But it's hard, man. It's hard to get people that were there to talk, especially if they're current, even though they're not talking for the Navy and they're talking for themselves. But I bet we're feeling lucky today, right?
Well, you've been working this for a while. I mean, I should give you credit because it's scary for somebody to come forward, to agree to have their name and face out there, to suffer the slings and arrows that inevitably come from going public on this. But I think you've been done a really good job of assuring this witness that he'd be okay if he came forward. We are careful about that. I mean, actually, we should tell our audience, we tried to stop him from using his voice, right? We thought maybe that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, look, he's not doing anything wrong. It's just that he was an observer to what it is we put out, that video. He knows about it. He was there. And yeah, of course, like it's just, it's different to put your face out there. And we did try to, but he's committed, man. And he says, no, I know that video. I know what you're talking about. I want to talk. And I'm really grateful.
And, of course, the context, Admiral Tim Gallaudet appeared at that last congressional hearing, made statements, shared about his own experiences in the U.S. Navy. The Navy has pushed the ball down the court, down the field, saying we want transparency, we want reporting, we want less stigma. Well, here we go. We've got an active duty U.S. Navy guy who is here to tell us what happened on the USS Jackson. You should introduce him.
All right. So I'll let him introduce himself even. This is Alex.
Alex, great to talk to you. Can we just start with what was in your decision-making to come forward with this, both today, showing your face and your name?
Yeah, so I was alerted by Admiral Tim that you and George Knapp had obtained a video of the ship I was on. So through Admiral Tim, he got me in contact with you, Jeremy, and that's why I was able to, kind of talk with you and get to where we are now.
Yeah, that's good. You were in touch with Admiral Tim. I know that his testimony in front of Congress inspired you to reach out to a Navy admiral and say, hey, I was on a ship, something happened, there's footage going around. And so when George and I obtain that, we often sit on that footage for a long time. But when Admiral Tim told me there was somebody who was there that would talk to us, I was really excited about that. So I just want to start with you establishing, what is your name? What is your rank? Are you currently in the military? And why are you coming forward now?
Yeah, absolutely. I am Operations Specialist Senior Chief Alexandra Wiggins. Been in the Navy for 23 years and counting. And I work here in San Diego currently on shore duty. And yeah, my last command was the USS Jackson. That's actually my little going away present right there from the Jackson. Yeah.
And so you're not speaking on behalf of the Navy. You're speaking on behalf of yourself. You're not a whistleblower. You're simply a witness. And it's like us talking about a common interest, which is UAP UFOs, because you've now seen one come up out of the water on radar and on thermal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't view myself as a whistleblower because I associate whistleblowing with, something that is wrong and the person speaking up against, something or a system that is doing wrong things. Nothing was done wrong here. It's just someone who was eyewitness to a video, and to an experience that happened that most people, on the planet don't ever see in their lives, but, don't have a way of explaining.
So, the Navy has sort of led the charge in trying to reduce the stigma about reporting UFOs, USOs. The whole government has said, yeah, we're interested in transparency. We want people to come forward. We want witnesses, pilots, aviators, whatever, to come forward. You're one of those guys. You're taking them at their word that you're not going to get in trouble for reporting to the world what you saw.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Navy knows that I definitely love the organization and everything that it's, provided for me and everything that I've done with the Navy. I really don't see myself as someone who's in the position for speaking for the Navy, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm just someone who witnessed something that was out there, again, in the video that I spoke about with Jeremy and Admiral, that, hey, I was there. I want to give you my firsthand, witness testimony as to what occurred on that video and a little bit after that video, and just here to add to anything that helps us understand what's actually out there.
You grew up in Las Vegas. So you've had a chance to see 20 plus years of my UFO stories. I hope I did not twist your mind too much over those years.
No, not at all. I grew up in Las Vegas, then went to Cheyenne High School for graduating. I've watched you when your hair was as dark as mine.
You had shared with Jeremy the fact that sailors in that area see these things all the time. Tell us a little bit more about that. When you may have seen your first one, I suspect it's something that we know about, and how often it's seen and how the Navy handles it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on the west coast of San Diego since 2002 is when I joined the Navy. And I've been out of country in between that time, but however, I've been on the west coast the majority of my career. And off good old San Diego coast, being in the Navy, we go out there, we do our mission, we, workups and things of that nature. And, every now and again, we will see satellites, we will see shooting stars, things of that nature. And then you'll see things that are very unexplained, like the video, that Jeremy released. So, you'll see that more often than not. And I have conversations with plenty of sailors, that I work with and have worked with, that will see things and it's unexplained. And we see them so often that we just kind of joke about it. We'll say we can't explain it. I'm a radar operator, on board the USS Jackson at the time of the video in 2023. So, the position is called TAC. So we were, monitoring, the radar, and that's what we do. So if there's things that we can't explain when it comes to the kinematics of a contact on our screen, then, we'll use visual, we'll use other sensors like Sapphire. We'll look out of the bridge wings and see what we can see to identify what's around us. And every now and again, we will see things that we can't explain. And when I say that, it's not as if we're seeing things that are a threat to, the military, a threat to our ship. They're just things that we identify. There's helicopters, there's aircraft, that are commercial aircraft all around San Diego, the coast, and things of that nature. So it's my job on that watch to identify what's what. And when you can't identify what's what, it makes you kind of skeptical.
And when you say you're not able to identify these things, meaning they're in the air, in the water, both?
in the air specifically for my task as the TACCOM, is to ensure, the air picture is, the way it needs to be in order for us to conduct our operations. But if there's something that's unexplainable, I'll depend on my team in ICC-1, which is Combat Information Center for an LCS ship. And I depend on them to kind of help me out and figure out what we're actually witnessing and what we're seeing. Yeah.
So take us back to this night in February of 2023. What's going on? Where are you? How does this first come to your attention?
So that night, it was an evening into the night watch. We were standing, and typical day underway, conducting normal operations off the coast of San Diego. And there was a time that I witnessed on my radar a few contacts popping up. It was northeast on the contact on the radar. The radar is in true, so northeast-ish, looking at the radar, and noticed a few things come in and out. I've been in the Navy for 23 years, so as an operations specialist, so I know the difference between, helicopters, which I'm a helo controller myself, with an NEC of helo control, and knowing the difference between that, commercial navigation radars, which are your typical ComNav that are, going to Hawaii possibly, and then atmospherics. So things like clouds, rainstorms, things like that. You learn over, the years to differentiate what's what on your radar. So that night, I noticed that I couldn't differentiate what was what at all amongst the things that I just mentioned. So I decided to go out into the bridge wing just to take a look, to see. I didn't think it was that far away. I think, it's nighttime, so light travels. So I figured, let me just poke outside, see what I can see. And to my surprise, which is something I've never witnessed, was a light I noticed on the horizon, but it looked as if it were surfacing out of the water and going up. Now, seeing lights on the horizon, very typical, when you're out in the water, but seeing a light on the horizon going into the air is a different story. So witnessing that, I'm not sure of what I'm seeing. What goes through my head, maybe there's, a military team that's out there conducting flight operations, and maybe their helos hovering, something like this, but their lights blink. I'm a helo controller, so I know that their lights, their running lights are going to be blinking, red, green, and, pulsating. So it's like it's going to be a solid light. And that's what I witnessed, was a solid light, rising from the horizon up. So went back inside, looked at my radar to just kind of match what I'm seeing with my own eyes. And I didn't really see what I thought I was going to see. I only saw one light visually, but then I saw 4 different contacts on radar. So seeing those 4 contacts on radar, I asked our CSM, I forget what that stands for right now, but Combat Systems, I forget the full title, but asked the CSM to take a look on Sapphire. They're in charge of managing Sapphire and moving it around, to just look at surface and air contacts around our ship. So they slew over to the location that I gave them, the direction in which I gave them, and that's where you see the video cut into play, where you see it slew into that target to kind of look at it. And, they're the operator, so they know how to zoom in and kind of see what the profile of the contact that we're looking at, to kind of understand, okay, if it were a ComNav radar, which is a typical, airliner, 747, then we're going to say, okay, good to go. They're, headed off to Hawaii or wherever, anywhere to the west. But that night we didn't witness that, as shown by the video.
So the sensor is pointed toward land, sort of a northeastern direction. Is that what you're pointed at? You're looking at?
Yes. So it's pointed towards a northeast direction at the time, based on what that video shows in Sapphire. So we were fairly far away from the coast of San Diego, San Clemente area. So it definitely was not, lights on the horizon from the city, nor did I have anything as far as helicopters or air traffic that I was detecting at all in that location.
Yeah, let me drive something home here. So, I mean, you are, from our conversations, I know, like a tactical air controller. You spend your time knowing the flight routes, 360, what's around you. These were outside of all of those zones. And I think it's important to kind of explain that. But also, look, your words, they're going to be twisted. You said to me, we've talked about this, you said the word horizon a few times, but I want you to get really clear. Did you see one of these craft come up out of the water or not out of the water?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I say that I saw this craft come out of the water, it's nighttime. So I want to be clear when I say what I saw a light, and it was a decently bright light. So when you've been on the water as long as I have, you know the difference between an aircraft carrier's lights, a difference between an oiler's lights, a fishing, a cargo ship. It's what we learn when we freshly come into the Navy, especially as an operations specialist. We have to learn silhouettes. We have to learn lighting structures, things of that nature. It's just part of what our job is. Being senior enlisted, it's become part of very basic elementary things that you have to know when doing your job. Kind of learning the basics first, and then, applying what you experience throughout your time, and then kind of coming up with your, solution as what you're seeing. So watching this light emerge from the water at a distance and then go into the air with a solid light, no blinking or anything, I've never noticed that and witnessed that ever in my life. That's kind of what triggered me to go back to my instruments, check it out, talk with the watch team and ask them, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's use other sensors. Let's use what we got to see what we're witnessing. One thing I do want to add is that when I witnessed that, I wasn't feeling threatened. I didn't think, the ship is going to get attacked. And why didn't I think that? Because multiple reasons. I'm not at a different level of ROE. I'm not postured in such a way off the coast of San Diego where we're receiving intel that there's a significant level threat, that we need to be at a higher threat level. None of this is happening, right? We're off the coast. We're doing workups. We're, doing training, things of that nature. So nothing made me think that we need to, trigger a higher level of threat warning. I indicated what I saw to the Tactical Action Officer, the TAO, who's in charge of Combat Information Center, ICC-1. And it was just, let's do more investigating. Let's see what we're looking at. And that's why we got Sapphire to look in that direction and notice what we noticed.
The series of events is you're seeing things on your radar that are anomalous or you're not sure about. You go out to kind of investigate with the eyes and you see something come up out of the water, and at night it looks like a light, but we're imagining and assuming this is a craft because it went into flight. And then, you confirm, I believe, on the radar that there are targets that are unidentified. And that's when you kind of jump onto the thermal signature. You said there were 4 originally, but then we jump into the video, and after close inspection, I think we see 2 of the 4, but then it pops in on 1. And we're not seeing what we should be seeing. I mean, these aren't like planes that have transponders and flight paths that are known. They don't match up with any angles of anything after we've dissected this. But like, what should we be seeing if it were a normal traditional plane and not like this Tic-Tac-shaped thing?
Great question. So I'll answer that question by telling you what actually happened when we were talking with each other after the aircraft left. And when I say they left, they really left as one unit of 4 objects, all at the same time. So there's a lot of skeptics out there. I get it. We're not meant to all be the same person and think the same way. And it's no different on board a Navy ship. So on board the ship that night, after all 4 of those craft left at the same exact time, we had a few people that were on the bridge different from Combat Information Center. It's kind of like a curtain that separates us. And, you know, we're just kind of laughing like you witnessed what you witnessed. You guys understand what you saw. And, you know, I believe it was the junior officer of the deck was just saying, hey, you know, nah, that was just an aircraft. It was just an aircraft, typical, you know, 747. And I said, sir, did you see wings? Did you see, you know, anything protruding from the craft that indicated a silhouette of a typical aircraft? And he was like, yeah, well, it's because we're so far away from the aircraft that it seems to look like a Tic Tac. So I said, okay, sir, got it. I would say maybe 20 seconds pass. 20 seconds pass, and I go back to my radar, and I'm just looking around, and I tell the CSM, I said, slew over to a certain degree, and I forget the degree. And he slews over to an air contact that I know is an air contact, and I tell him, zoom in. Now, I just mentioned that there's a curtain that separates ICC-1 from the bridge, but the bridge has the same monitors that we have, so they can see what we're doing from the bridge, and you can change like channels so they can see certain pictures that are being displayed in ICC-1. So they're already displaying the Sapphire camera on one of the multiple monitors on the bridge. So when I tell them to slew over, I say, OD, do you see what this air contact looks like? This air contact was maybe 5-6 nautical miles further than what we witnessed the Tic Tacs, and you can clearly see the wings. You can see the propulsion. You can see the propulsion, like when on a hot summer day, being from Las Vegas, George Knapp, I'm sure you know what that is. You can see that hot propulsion from the aircraft. And I told the JOD, I said, like, what do you have to say now? You know, because it was funny to me that I was able to disprove his skepticism like within 20 seconds. That what we witnessed was probably an airplane. We were just zoomed in so far that it just looked like a small Tic Tac, but disproved like within 20, 30 seconds. And he didn't really say anything after that. He just kind of chuckled and laughed.
So higher ups on the ship knew this was going on. It's not like you would be expected to file some sort of report or something. They knew it and they said, no, it's explainable.
No, and I want to be clear on that. The Navy, the ship, you know, I'm not speaking for the Navy. I'm not speaking for the ship. I'm not the commanding officer of the ship. And I don't want to put words in the Navy's mouth by saying that there was a level of a chain of command where we were to like report all this information and we just didn't. It was just something that was witnessed. And again, I point out that it wasn't a threat to the ship. I want that to be very clear that the ship didn't skip any steps in reporting, aircraft anomalies or aircraft that are getting close to the ship. And this was not close enough to the ship to have triggered an alert warning where we would have to investigate, is this craft about to cause harm to our ship? Nowhere close to it. So in that case, if it were, absolutely, I would let the tactical action officer know. Tactical action officer would, depending on, lots of different variations, would notify the captain, and then we'd take action to defend the ship as any other ship in the Navy would do. That wasn't this case.
But let me just ask you this. So to the best of your assessment, if I'm following the story, you see something come out of the water, you confirm on radar, you've got like 4 targets, you punch in, you don't see the typical propulsion signatures you should see at that distance. All 4 objects leave simultaneously. You then have a kind of debate in the CIC of like what's going on. Then you find a further craft and you're able to zoom in and full on propulsion, wings, all that stuff. So you're kind of showing people in real time, although it's not a threat, and there's not other actions, no dereliction of duty. You were just observing and communicating. This was different though than most times that you've experienced this stuff. I know George brought it up. You were on USS Omaha when they had their series of encounters, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was new there, just checking in. And that's how I wound up actually going to the Jackson. A lot of folks that are either not in the military or not in the Navy, littoral combat ships, you can be moved around pretty often. For those that know, they know, we know you get moved around a lot. if you have certain NECs or different skills that they need on another ship. So I originally started off on the Omaha, and wound up going to the Jackson afterwards. But I saw the Omaha video afterwards. I actually didn't even know it was being recorded originally. But I was there for that incident, just wasn't on watch. I wasn't, a brand new check-in to the command and just kind of observing things. Never been on an LCS before, so it was new for me. But yeah.
Can you tell us about the Sapphire system, what we are seeing on that video that was released? People complain, oh gosh, it's grainy, but I mean, it's not a Panasonic movie camera. It's a thermal sensor, correct? That's showing us that? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a thermal sensor, and I understand for those that have seen the video, they may believe that is like a snippet directly from the system. I from my understanding, I figured if you go outside and record at night with your cell phone, I assume this is cell phone footage, that you're going to get grainy video if you record on your cell phone anything at night. And of course, it's very dark in CIC and in the bridge. So I know I'm in my 40s. I've seen plenty of UFO videos, and I've asked myself, like, why can't there just be a 4K video, a perfect video? But the circumstances seem that, during night, I mean, not everybody's walking around with a night camera to capture these types of things unless they're enthusiasts. So
on Sapphire, you should be able to see how far at things in the air and on the surface.
I'm not a CSM. This is just me taking a stab at it, but I would say on a clear day without any atmospherics, we should be able to see somewhere between, I'd say 13 to 17 nautical miles. And we're saying zooming in, and I'm not saying a perfect, 4K video, but being able to see, again, CSMs out there that are watching this are probably going to step on my toes for that one, but I don't know the exact number.
So if depending on what the propulsion system is, you should be able to see something on that thermal screen that indicates how it works. Is it leaving exhaust, for example? But you didn't see it. It's not like a jet, for example, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see jets, very easily, and their exhaust. There's no, debating that. You can, there are lots of times when, we have on board ships things called like Tiger Cruises, or this is kind of like where the families and friends come on board the ship and we get underway. Like, it's as simple as, just civilians even seeing what we have to display and looking at Sapphire. Anybody can see if you get a chance to be on a Navy ship and look at Sapphire. Everything we see that is propelled into the air leaves a signature, and it's very clear.
Maybe one last thing, Jeremy, you can ask from me anyway. The 4 points that fly away. That's a pretty key moment, I would think. That's a pretty cool moment, right?
Absolutely. So the video stops. Where the video stops, I'll share this. This is kind of like, something that probably everybody wants to know. I'll tell you what happens when the video stops. The video stops, and the CSM zooms out. And as the CSM zooms out, we notice that there's a total of 4. Now, on radar, I already noticed that once I came back in, I noticed the one that I was looking for visually, and I noticed other contacts in that same location. But when we first zoomed in on the contact in the video that you see, we only saw the one, and then we see the second one. It was only when we zoom out, we realize, holy crap, there's 2 more out here, a total of 4. And so we're just watching. What's the point of looking away? We're witnessing something that most people don't get a chance to witness in their life. So we're just watching on Sapphire, and we're tracking it, and Sapphire's, tracking one of them, and it's tracking and tracking and tracking. And as time goes by, we're like, let's just watch. I would say maybe 20, 30 seconds pass after the video stops. And all of a sudden, you just see all 4 of them take off to the northeast all at the same time, just out of nowhere. And if I had to talk speed, it would say like maybe 2 steps behind instantaneous. It wasn't like if you blink, it's gone. We had time to watch them go off into the distance, but really instantly. No noise, no sonic boom, no, effects in the water that, cause rippling in the water. Nothing. Nobody was affected. Nothing was affected. We didn't get a gust of wind to hit us. And that's anything else, I'm not a scientist, but anything else that could have been disturbed with that level of speed was not disturbed.
And these 4 points leave as if they're one object. Is that right?
Yes. So what in the Navy, we have these things called tactical signals. So we'll do tactical signals as an operations specialist with the bridge, and with a strike group or an ESG, which is a expeditionary strike group. We'll get together and we'll conduct exercises, and over different radio circuits, we will conduct different formations, and it's called by the formation commander, and they'll issue a way that everyone's supposed to turn, for example. And once they conduct and execute, they execute, and they all turn at the same time. So it's pretty cool to see ships do this. It was very reminiscent to see all 4 of those objects as if they were doing the same thing. They all executed at the same time, leaving. It's not like 3 of them left and then one was kind of like a little behind them. No, they were all in sync at the same time. And that's why I said earlier that it was my thoughts were either they synced together like we do in the Navy and we all take off at turn at the same time, or, get in formation at the same time and execute the order at the same time, or one entity is controlling all 4 of those objects at the same time, and it's just synced together, all 4 objects. Something like that is what went through my mind.
Where does it go from here for you? I mean, are you willing to testify if you were called, or fill out a form to Arrow, or take it further if you're asked?
That's a good question, George. I'm not sure. I definitely, I see myself as someone that's just stepping up to share his experience. I don't see it as anything other than that. Where this goes from here, I don't know. I wouldn't mind, just adding my voice to those that have come before me, like yourself and Jeremy. I don't mind. But that's how I see myself. Just someone giving data as eyewitness testimony. Again, I love the Navy, been in the Navy for 23 years. Don't plan on leaving it anytime soon. And just wanted to share my experience with the world.
I'm really grateful you're coming forward. Look, I think more people like you, we had Commander Guts, come on the show. We've had Commander David Fravor, Commander Underwood. I just think people, active or not active, just talking about this openly is very powerful. Putting your face out there and all that. I just appreciate it. We have permission to talk about this kind of thing, but I still appreciate it because I know there is stigma, and I know you are still active, and that can always be a thing, but the fact you're willing to just talk about it, because we can. I hope more people take your lead on that. We're seeing it in Congress, and we're seeing it now kind of in popular culture. People are willing to have these conversations, despite the ridicule at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think, what we are out there doing is related to anything that I witnessed. If there was any way of saying that, giving my eyewitness testimony for, that video that has the world has now seen, just to help out. I don't think it interferes in any way with the Navy, the military, its mission, at all. So I just want to be able to step out and kind of give any information I can to help out again and help understand what it is that we're witnessing and what we've been witnessing in the skies this 80 years.
Right.
Alex, thanks so much. I hope if you come back to Las Vegas, we get a chance to get together.
Absolutely. I thank you for your time. Thanks, George Knapp. Thanks, Jeremy.
So, Jeremy, as we were analyzing this video and the implications of the case, we made the collective wise decision to reach out to our friend Merrick to help us understand the technology involved, what we were seeing, and to, in essence, pre-bunk the debunk. Is that right?
We want to see if that footage stands up to the scrutiny of the verbal testimony. And there's only certain circles you can rely on to put this out, and to in case just to have it safeguarded And Merrick was the guy that really shined in this. He did some amazing work. I mean, I talked with a lot of people about this video. But Merrick really was able to put it into graphics and explain it. And if I can understand it, anybody can.
Yeah, well, we put the brakes on. After Merrick had his first look at it, we put the brakes on. Whoa, wait a second. Maybe this can be explained prosaically. And then the more we learned about it, the stronger the case got. Merrick, can't thank you enough for, as always, pitching in with your expertise on this stuff.
Well, thank you guys for bringing me in. I truly appreciate it. And you're right, George. At first, I said, whoa, hold on. This looks like this might be, and I'll just backtrack. The first thing I did when I got the video is I looked back at the historical flight tracker data that has all the transponder information for commercial airplanes, civil aviation, and military helicopters that are operating out there, and frankly, some military transport planes as well. I looked at it, and at first glance, it looked like there was a perfect alignment between some of the lines of sight for that camera and just conventional aircraft. And then I slept on it. Something didn't sit right. Jeremy, you might remember this. And I woke up the next morning and I said, wait a minute, I miscalculated something. And with your input, with expert input from sources that knew exactly the system, we were able to with that fairly high degree of confidence, I'll say a very high degree of confidence now, after having watched the armchair debunkers panic over this video over the last 72 hours, that there are no easy explanations in terms of conventional aircraft for what we see in that video.
Yeah, and that's the way it typically goes. What people don't know is George and I get so much footage. And a lot of times, either we can't prove, that it's not something obviously terrestrial in nature, or whatever, or just prosaic. We're at a point where a lot of the cases that come to us, it doesn't sync up with witness testimony, and we just don't think it's going to move the ball forward. But then this moment with you was, okay, that's the way it goes. I've got some tough conversations to have with people who are highly skilled, who tell me they know they saw something really extraordinary that night. And I was ready to have those conversations. And then you dove back in. You're like, wait a second.
Well, I think, Jeremy, part of what didn't sit right with me was both kind of the angle, the mathematical kind of elements to this, but there was another element, and that was that infrared shape. That it's a Tic Tac looking shape, and I thought back to 2004 when the chief radar operator, the anti-air warfare coordinator on the USS Princeton, recalled objects rising apparently out of the ocean or appearing on the radar screen in that precise plot of coordinates, right, or that slice of the Earth right around that San Clemente island area, and then move south at some very bizarrely slow speeds. And guess what? The object in that video, if you do the math, they're moving south, and at a distance of about 7-8 miles, they're going about 100 knots, which is what Chief Day recalled. So that was fascinating. That's kind of an analytic connection to this new footage that really kind of stuck in the back of my head and prompted me to take another look at the math.
So you rule out regular airplanes, but we have seen already some people try to make it like they were planes, that what we're seeing is exhaust. It's not exhaust, is it?
I could say, having looked at a lot of FLIR footage, this is that thermal imagery that the military uses with some frequency. Spent a lot of time on the gimbal video, for example, looking at FLIR exhaust. Maybe not as much as a pilot, but a lot of what's out there. And I have fairly high confidence that what we're seeing is not exhaust. We don't see any kind of a plume. There's one example that's just kind of a fluke where a jet was seen at about 100 miles, but you can very clearly see two engines, two exhaust signatures. This is that's a perfect capsule-shaped infrared signature. So I, from my perspective, I'm convinced, especially with the flight tracker data not showing any jets in that line of sight, that we're not, in fact, seeing any sort of exhaust. And frankly, that's why this is so fascinating, right? There's no plume, there's no signature in terms of a conventional propulsion system that we expect, keeping this object afloat. the two objects, and not only that, but they're moving actually fairly quickly across the sky, because you can see the, not to go too far into the weeds, but the azimuth angle changes quite rapidly, and that's the left-right motion of the camera as it tracks those two objects. So yes, to your point, we're not seeing propulsion from my perspective.
A couple things about that. I mean, first is that's corroborated by the witness testimony itself. You missed it, but we just had a first-hand witness to this event come on. His name is Alex, and he's 23 years experience, and he's got a pretty decent set of responsibilities on that ship. And he said, look, right after this happened, he said he moved over to another screen. They targeted in on a plane that was farther away to show that you could see the wings, the tail, the exhaust, because, the guy next to him was super skeptical. So he wanted to prove to him in real time. So they went to a plane farther away and showed all of the signatures you'd expect to see in the thermal realm. So what you're saying really correlates with what, an expert witness just told me and George.
Fascinating. I love that they do that. And that's critical, right? When we're dealing with life and death with these advanced, these are war machines, right? And if you misidentify an aircraft or anything in a war environment, when you're ready to, you're loaded for bear, that could be a major accident, right? There have been a few throughout history. I think in Iran and in Korea, we've had examples of mistaken shoot downs that were just absolute tragedies, and the military's taken that very seriously. So identification, who's who in the zoo, is absolutely critical to the military. And I'll just say, add one quick thing, Jeremy, on the eyewitness accounts. Kudos to you guys for getting the Navy guys to come out. The key witness that I'd heard previously, he mentioned that there were 4 objects moving in unison. This is really important. I want to emphasize this. In the video, we see 2 objects, and over the course of the 35 seconds of that video, those 2 objects stay identically separated. They're separated by about a half an angle, 0.6 degrees, and that means they're moving in formation across the sky, and that is absolutely critical to ruling out planes, right? Because over 35 seconds, 2 planes would be going in vastly different directions, and yet here we have not only corroboration of the eyewitness accounts, but also ruling out distant aircraft, commercial aircraft, for this particular video.
Mayor, can you help us understand what we were seeing on that screen from the film? I mean, it bounces around, and then it seems to zoom in at one point. That thing is moving. I can't tell if that's the camera or the sensor moving, the ship moving, or the object moving. Can you help us?
Great question, George. And I think most people, when they see this footage at first, they think this thing is zigging, zagging, going up and down, left and right. It is not. That's actually the sensor tracking it, basically. And think about this, and you can see this in the video. If you look at the bottom right, there's an EL value, an elevation angle. And that goes up and down. And that's basically literally where the camera's looking up and down. And throughout the course of the video, you can see that as the ship's deck pitches in the ocean, that angle goes up and down and up and down. So it's very hard for a human operator to compensate for that with a control stick. So this is manually tracking and focusing in on that particular heat signature.
And the white things that appear on that screen, is that the targeting mechanism trying to...
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So that gives the system an indication of where anomalies or objects of interest are, and that tells the system how to center in on those objects as the deck is pitching and as the objects move.
We're being accused, Merrick, of holding data back because we chose to stabilize the video. I can't go into exactly what you're seeing in the full video, but you're always kind of protecting the ships and any operational security stuff. So I'll just say this. We did what anybody would do, which is we stabilized it so you could see it better. But I heard a little whispering online and want to make sure everybody has all the data in real time. And I was talking with you. So we stabilized that, or Michael stabilized, the Wizard of Oz of Weaponized, shout out to Michael, stabilized the latitude. And we'll play that right now in this episode. more so that people just have the raw data in real time. It's already all there. It's not a degraded version that we put out, but we just stabilize a different aspect of that video just so everybody can feel that they have all the data. Although it's all obviously in the first video, you could get there. But you asked me for that, so we're going to provide that. My big question for you, Merrick, is simple. 2004. You've got, and for George too, what is going on? 2004, we got Tic Tac, all this stuff. The 2019, we provided all the visual evidence we did of those swarms right in the same area. Now 2023, now we've heard of a lot more, but don't have video evidence of them. What is going on in that area? Whose technology is it? Is this ours? What's going on?
Well, George, do you want to take a stab or do you want me to speculate?
Well, I am a traditionalist. I feel almost a romantic connection to the Tic Tac design. It's like Ray-Ban Wayfarers. Some things you don't need to improve on them. The SR-71, the Corvette. And I'm glad to see Tic Tac stick around, that they're still flying the same thing, didn't add tail fins or anything like that. Tic Tacs were around in 2004. We saw some big spheres and pyramids in 2019, and now we're back to Tic Tac. I'm glad that whoever's flying them has stuck with the original.
It was almost called the Tylenol, by the way. That's a Commander Fravor's hilarious story. Was it the movie Airplane? It was kind of like, he's describing a plane. It's kind of like a Tylenol, but with wings. And so he felt so silly when he was trying to describe back, to the information people, the intelligence people, what he filmed, that he called it a Tic Tac instead of a Tylenol. Can you imagine, though, if we're flying Tylenols and what we've been talking about all these years?
But as an analyst, Merrick, what do you make of the fact that they were around in 2004, probably a lot sooner than that? I mean, there's been UFO activity and USO activity there for a long time. 2019, this gigantic outpouring of it. And now 2023, they're making it pretty clear they're still around. What's the big picture for you?
George, I'll take it back even further to 1953, to what I consider arguably the most credible UFO incident in history, or certainly of historical importance, and that is when Kelly Johnson, the famed aerospace engineer who was the key at Lockheed Skunk Works behind the U-2 and the SR-71 airframe, he was at his ranch looking off the coast towards the Channel Islands, saw a disc-shaped object. Unbeknownst to him, a Lockheed flight crew, a test crew, was airborne at the same exact time, saw the same exact object. 5 of Lockheed's top engineers and pilots all saw this. You cannot get more credible than that. They all saw this from 2 different vantage points, and they saw this object zip off towards the ocean. So there's something about that area. Those documents actually are publicly available in the Blue Book files. Other pilots, Lockheed test pilots, in those documents reported seeing lights over Catalina Island. There's something to that area. I don't know if Arrow is watching this, but send some analytic the prowess and some sensors down there, and let's get some answers.
Meaning something on the bottom of the ocean out there.
That is seems to be the hypothesis, right? Because you have the roiling whitewater, the 2004 incident. Before Commander Fravor and those 3 other aviators saw the Tic Tac, there was a large area of roiling whitewater. With the Omaha video in 2019, we see an object descend into the water. The next day, not many people know this, the next day, the USS Paul Hamilton observed an object splashing into the water, just as they said in the Omaha video. This seems to be evidence, anecdotal evidence or preliminary evidence and data of some kind of transmedium activity in that part of the world.
Thanks, Merrick. Appreciate your expertise and your efforts on our behalf and the behalf of the public.
Thanks so much for bringing me in. I appreciate it.